At the time, this is about 17 years ago, my mom and dad, they were tired of everyday life. They went up to the mountains, and I live in Colorado, so in Colorado there's a lot of snow, and there's hard to get up there. But once they did, they got to this town called Estes Park. And this town is famous for this specific hotel called the Stanlley Hotel. On the outside, there's a ton of like old windows and old shades. It's almost like their eyes looking at you. And then you walk in, huge doors, big staircase with a ton of stuff. You walk in and there's a giant, all the way to the right, there's a giant like a dance floor. And then there's a conference room that could also be like a party room. And there's like an old car from like the 20s, like a Ford, I forget what it's called, the Ford T something. And there's an old piano that's like super long that you can see the inside of. The floors are like old carpet that looks like it's like circle with crazy patterns. And there's a giant chandelier that's like crystal. And the whole room almost has a yellow glow to it. And it's just a ton of old 1920s stuff. And when you walk in, you walk to the staircase. That's almost like an old castle staircase that goes up from both sides, winds to the middle, and then two staircases come out of it to go to the next floor. And then each floor, it's like hallways with doors, old mirrors, old pictures. Some of them are definitely props, but I know it's really creepy. And then there's like spiral staircases going up to the other floors. And then the roof, it's like green. And it's crazy because there's no attic. It's just like the top floors have windows that are like sticking out of the roof. They're almost like slanted. And then all the rooms with these old crazy beds that have the poles that go up. And this hotel is based off of The Shining, which is a famous Stephen King book and Stanley Kubrick movie. And they just thought, oh, we've heard this hotel was spooky. They knew The Shining was based off of it, and they just decided to stay there. So they got in, checked in to the cheapest room because it's just both of them, and they went up. But it was late, so they just got dinner after they checked in, finished. My mom was tired, obviously, because she was pregnant, and they went up to the room, fell asleep. Pretty good like that. But in the middle of the night, they woke up to almost like a party above them. They heard so many noises, like doors slamming, music playing, footsteps everywhere, almost dancing. It was crazy. And since it was a hotel, they were like, oh, I'm sure this happens all the time. And they didn't want to be Scrooges. So they just sat there, waited till they could go back to sleep. And this was for sure above them at the time too. Nowhere else, just above them. It was almost like dust was falling down from the ceiling, like in old haunted house movies or something, like dust falls down from the roof when there's something like stomping above them. And the next morning, they went to the front desk just to ask the lady if they were having a party and if they were having it the next night, and to tell them to keep it down if they were. And so they was like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll ask them to do it. And she asked for the room to find out what room it would be that they were complaining about. They gave her the room, and she was confused for a second. She was like, that's the top floor. The top floor. And they were surprised because they knew for sure it was right above them. For sure. This huge party right above them. They saw dust come down from the ceiling. And she was like, yeah, there's no attic. It's literally just the roof above you. I don't know. Maybe it was below you, maybe or something. But they were really spooked. They're like, that's really weird. And nothing had ever happened to them like that before. After that, they spent the rest of the day outside the hotel because they're pretty scared. And this hotel, when you go there, you can tell it's pretty spooky. Like, it's old. There's a hedge maze in the front. especially in Colorado in the winter where it's like towards the spring or something like that. It's pretty, like, the hedge maze is really tall. So you can't even really see the front, so you have to go around. And once you walk in, it's almost like the 20s, because it's really crazy. And it's almost an exact copy of the movie, which is really cool. And so they spent the rest of the day outside, because they were pretty freaked out by it. They came in the next night. My mom and my dad were both still really tired, and because they didn't really get any sleep the night before. And so they went back to sleep, still nervous, still scared. And of course, there was more unexpected noises, so they woke up a little later, and they heard children running down the hallway, laughing, screaming, talking. They're like, oh, it must just be a family coming in late from dinner or arriving somewhere. And they're like, oh, we don't want to be Scrooges again. We don't want to tell the front desk lady it's fine. It's probably just a family. And so they fell back asleep. And then they woke up around an hour or two later to the same noises. They were really weirded out by that because it was already really late in the night, like around 1 or 2. And they heard these kids' noises again, laughing, screaming, talking. It was really weird, especially for kids. And so my dad got up, opened the door, and there's nothing there in their hallway. It was blank. Just nothing there. And so that spooked him even more. Ran back to his bed, went back to sleep, and then another hour or two later, they woke up to the same noises. It was almost like they were mocking them. The laughing, the screaming. They just couldn't stop hearing it. And my mom, pregnant at the time with me, was just furious because she hadn't gotten 2 good nights of sleep. So my dad went to check the door again just in case someone was pranking them again. Like maybe it was just the hotel desk because they were mad that they complained about something. And nope, nothing there. No noise, not even a door shutting after that. And so the creepy kids' voices were, like, they said they were creepy. It was almost like from the past, like kids playing with like hopscotch, stuff like that, singing songs. They woke up again to the same noises, didn't even want to go check because they're like, oh, this is awful. And yeah, and then fell back asleep eventually again. They said it was pretty terrifying hearing these noises 2 nights in a row, but 2 different things. It's pretty crazy. The next morning they woke up, packed up really fast. Luckily I didn't see anything that morning. Left the hotel without even saying anything, just checking out. And yeah, they just went back home. A ghost to me is like a person's soul or something like that has unfinished business, or is a remnant of the past stuck in one place. I mean, I'm not religious, but that's just what I believe. They knew that it was haunted because, I mean, like everyone in Colorado, and I'm sure most places, they know that the Stanlley Hotel is a popular place for ghosts. Stephen King spent like months in there staying to write The Shining. I know a ton of people that have stayed there have stories about it. Like my dad's boss had a story, my friends have a story, and I know it's a really old hotel, so there's a lot of famous stories of like people dying there. There's every Halloween on the news, it's Stanlley Hotel has these ghost sightings and whatever. And yeah, there's just famous ghosts that also live there. There's one lady, it's in a red or white gown, I forget, and she always is on the stairs, like watching everything. And she's sighted a lot, and it's pretty crazy. And then there's tons of other ghosts.
Hey, see you in the next story.